We will get started here momentarily. We are just letting everybody load into the Zoom app, and we'll get started shortly. All righty. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining the ACA Small Business Bootcamp for this Tuesday, November 30th. I can't believe it's already the end of November. We're excited to have you here with us. I'm Robert Theobald, Small Business Ombudsman and Vice President of Small Business Services. And as we like to do, we like to start by thanking all of our community partners. We could not do these bootcamp webinars without them, their time, and their expertise. The Small Business Bootcamp is designed to help small businesses work through the COVID crisis and return stronger than ever. It is a statewide initiative supported by all of our community members. And not only is it a Tuesday, Thursday webinar, but it is a resource collective and a content library. And so let's talk about that real quick. The Resource Collective is a website where we have added additional tools and guides provided by our community partners to help support small businesses with business guidance, business essentials, some marketing strategies, and other information. We have a link here listed on the slide, but you can also find it on about the middle of our Small Business Bootcamp website. We'll have the link to the Resource Collective. Additionally, because we have been doing these boot camps for a while now, we record every session, and we have thus created a content library of over 180 recorded webinars and presentations provided by our expert community partners. You can go back and review these. They're on the archive section of our website, and you can review them. You can share the links to friends and family and other business acquaintances that may benefit from it. But you can find just about any topic to help your small business run better, grow, respond to the COVID crisis, et cetera. A lot of great information, and that is available to you at no cost as well. And again, feel free to share those links to others that you know that may benefit from them. Additionally, the state has set up a number of different websites to help support people during COVID-19. The ArizonaTogether.org website is the state's information and resource page. And then the Arizona Commerce Authority set up a COVID-19 business resource website, azcommerce.com/COVID-19. And you can find a lot of great information on that page with business guidance, financial information, and other information for all size businesses. Additionally, the ACA has a number of programs to help support small businesses. We have our Small Business Services, our Workforce Division, and our Arizona MEP. All are there to help support you as you grow and develop your business throughout Arizona. We also have, for those looking to start a new business or expand their business, maybe a new product line or new areas, we have our Small Business Checklist. And this is an online interactive tool that helps entrepreneurs identify the commonly requested licensing, registration, compliance needs at the local, state, and federal level. So for example, if you're in one community and you're looking to expand into another community, it can help you identify what those licensing, registration, compliance needs are for your expansion into that new community. You can find that, the website's listed below. You can find it on the website, or the shortcut is azcommerce.com/smallbizbiz. So with that, we want to jump into some small business updates, some things you may need to know. So I just found out from the city of Phoenix yesterday, they are launching some new micro and small business grants, Phoenix Biz Grants. And we're going to post all this information in the chat so you can have the links to all these programs. So there's the City of Phoenix grant that just came out. The town of Superior has a grant available for businesses in the town of Superior. We want to highlight the Maricopa County 1% small business loan. This is a program that Maricopa County set up, working with Prestamos and Local First, two of our partners, to provide this 1% small business loan and the grant you see right below that, along with some technical assistance. And so the links for both those programs with Prestamos and Local First will be listed in the chat. And then lastly, it's not on this slide, but we're going to post in the chat, is a link to our resource page for financial resources. We like to keep this updated as we hear about new grants at the local, state, and federal levels, or other financial informations such as the Maricopa County loan or other loan programs. We like to share that information in this website, so we will post a link for it in the chat as well. So with that, we want to look at some of the upcoming sessions. We're nearing the end of the year, so we have, after today, we'll have 3 sessions left before we go on a Christmas holiday break for a few weeks. But we have on Thursday, December 2nd, top 10 digital marketing trends. And then Tuesday and Thursday, December 7th and 9th, we have 2 great sessions by our team at Northland Pioneer College, SBDC, Coconino Community College, SBDC, and the Yavapai College, SBDC, sharing the 2021 end of year checklist and the basics of bookkeeping. As you combine those 2 together, it'll help set you up to end the year and start next year right. And on these next sessions, just to let you know, we will be starting back up after the holidays on Tuesday, January 4th. We've got an exciting January program set up. We've got some brand new presenters with some new topics that are really exciting. So join us. We're going to change things up a little bit in 2022. We're going to keep the webinars going, and we're going to add some workshops as well. So we're really excited about our 2022 programming, but we want to end the year strong with these last 3 sessions after today. We're excited about today's sessions as well. So as we transition into today's sessions, we have Rebecca Clyde, the co-founder and CEO of Botco.ai. We're excited to have her with us. She's presented before. She's got a great company that she started. She started multiple companies, great entrepreneur. And so we are going to go ahead and turn the time over to Rebecca.
Great. Thank you so much for that introduction, Robert. And, you know, that whole lead in of all the resources that are available in Arizona just remind me why I love this state so much. And the fact that we do so much in Arizona to support entrepreneurs and small business. I always tell everybody this is the best place to start a business and to be an entrepreneur. So I appreciate everything that you're doing at the ACA to make this a great ecosystem for us. So I'm going to go ahead and just share my screen as well so that we can get off with today's presentation. Oh, whoops. I don't think I did that right. Okay, so as Robert was saying, I am the co-founder and CEO of Botco.ai. We're a software startup that's based in Scottsdale, Arizona. And I've lived in the Valley in the Phoenix area for over 20 years. So I consider myself a now native in a sense. I've had 3 children here, so I'm firmly rooted in this community. Like I said, you know, one of the things I love about Arizona is that we do so much to support our entrepreneurs. And so each of you, by being here, you are demonstrating that you're utilizing these great resources, and then hopefully you can go and tell other people about all the great programming that the ACA is putting together for us. Now, today I was asked to talk a little bit about balancing everything and how it is that as entrepreneurs, maybe we can make sure that our businesses are thriving while also our families. For many of us, we're parents, we have children. And so it goes without saying that it's a lot to juggle, you know, trying to have kids, trying to grow a business, trying to be successful. We carry a lot of responsibility on our shoulders as entrepreneurs. But, you know, we all do it. I'm sure you probably share this sentiment with me. We do it for our kids in a lot of ways. The reasons I went into entrepreneurship was because I wanted to demonstrate to my kids that they could be whatever they wanted to be, and that throughout their education, they would constantly be thinking about how they would want to move that forward and contribute to the world in their own unique way. And I'd like today to just start with a little bit of a story, you know, as to why I'm doing what I do today in the software space. So my company provides a chat solution that is used primarily in the healthcare industry and other business industries too, but mostly in healthcare. And part of the reason I got into this was because when my youngest daughter, Mia, I have 3 kids, was about 4 years old, she had a really bad asthma attack. And it was the first time that I had ever experienced anything that felt life-threatening in my family. It was a really tough night, watching my daughter really gasp for breath, rushing her to Phoenix Children's Hospital, having the emergency room, swirl around her, and the doctors clearly concerned about what was happening. They were able to stabilize her, get her breathing back to normal, and eventually discharge us. But that experience really was kind of the beginning of a long journey that I was going to start experiencing with the healthcare system. I had to do follow-up appointments. I had to get special medications. I had to go in for testing. I had to go in for lots of follow-up visits. Having a child with a chronic condition really created a lot of new interactions in my life that I had really not had to experience very much before. And it was the first time I ever really realized how difficult it is to interact with the healthcare system. Sometimes I would call and I would be on hold for a really long time, sometimes 45 minutes, an hour, and then they would hang up on me and tell me that everybody had gone for the day and I had to call back again the next day. And you can imagine I'm very busy. I'm trying to run a business. I'm trying to raise other kids too. She's not my only child. And so this can get very frustrating. And I realized, I'm actually one of the lucky people. I have health insurance. I have a good support system. I have a flexible job where I kind of get to be my own boss, and it's still difficult for me. And I was wondering, how are other parents doing this who maybe don't have as much flexibility? And I realized that, what has happened is the healthcare industry has really revolved too much around the system and not so much around the consumers, and especially around families and parents like us. I don't know if you've experienced this, but I certainly have. Every time you call the doctor's office and they tell you, can I put you on a brief hold? And you know that it's not going to be a brief hold. It's going to be a very long hold, and maybe not even get the appointment or the refill or the treatment scheduled that is needed. And so I think a lot about this in terms of, how can we make these experiences better for health consumers and for families that need access to these services. And in a lot of ways, that's what gets me up in the morning, is my own experience, and then knowing that other parents are also struggling with this. And anything that I can do to shorten that gap, to make that experience easier, I feel like I can be making a difference to my own future, and then also to the future of all the other families that are out there. And this isn't just so much about our time and like, hey, making me wait 30 minutes or 45 minutes, but the fact that these kinds of long waits actually create more negative health outcomes. If it takes 3 or 4 phone calls to get an appointment, that means a treatment might take weeks, be delayed by weeks or even months. And so over time, this actually creates a really big problem, a larger cost for the healthcare system, because people get sicker, but by not getting help sooner. And then it also creates a lot of stress and anxiety in families. And so I feel like we can really make a difference by contributing to the shortening of this cycle. Now, the United Nations actually came out with a study recently where they studied the impact of COVID-19 on women. And I thought this was interesting because one thing they discovered was that women carried the heaviest burden during the pandemic. So they were the ones tasked with staying home with the children, dealing with school, having to do more of the house cleaning or housekeeping, taking care of ill parents. So maybe if there were parents that were going to go to a nursing home, maybe they stayed home, and it all fell on the shoulders of primarily women. And there's some really interesting statistics that show that women on average are spending, 4 or more hours a day on unpaid healthcare work, doing a lot of these tasks, essentially bearing the burdens of the healthcare system where it falls short. And so, what this has created is a huge repercussion throughout the entire economy, because as women have had to carry this burden, it means that they're not as available to work, which has created staffing shortages everywhere and has generated a huge ripple effect throughout the economy. I certainly have seen this, as a lot of women I know have dropped out of the workforce, and we're seeing one of the lowest participations of women in the workforce in the last 30 years. This is really, really alarming. And so again, what can we be doing to support women, to support these systems that really have held women back as a result of a pandemic that is happening right now. Now, I mentioned earlier that I had been making phone calls into the doctor's offices, and a lot of times this is kind of what I imagine is happening. I'm calling into this giant phone bank and I'm being put on hold because they're switching me around, trying to figure out where to connect me to. And this is because for a lot of us in our businesses, we're still using very old technology, what I call 150-year-old phone technology, where we're depending on somebody to call us or call our store or call our business or make a phone call in order for us to advance our business. And if you think about it, there's so many more options now. And what we're providing at Botco.ai is the new way of doing this. So I think about, if I have to wait on hold or put my customers on hold for 30, 45 minutes, it's not a great experience. I want to be able to give them the ability to text me or to chat with my business and get what they need as quickly as possible. And so what we're doing at Botco.ai is making it as easy to access this information as it is to text a friend. So just like you can quickly text and ask for information from a friend, you should be able to do that as well if you're looking for a healthcare appointment or information about insurance, or if you're selling a product or a service within your company, if it's a retail product or something else, being able to do the same thing. And you're probably wondering, well, I would love to text all my customers, but I don't have time to be typing 1,000 texts a day. And that's the point, right? That's where an AI solution really comes in and can say, hey, why don't we take the majority of these kinds of questions that you're going to be getting, which all start to look very similar if you start to aggregate them, and let's automate the ability to respond to them so that we can help those customers move down their journey and get what they want as quickly as possible without having to have, this kind of an experience. And some of the customers here in Arizona that are using our product very successfully are companies like Richovia, for example. They're a drug and alcohol treatment center, and they just launched a new initiative called Project Me, where they're helping give people access to treatment programs virtually so that they don't have to wait in a long line to be able to get in. So if somebody knows that they have a situation or a need, they can quickly go onto the Project Me website, chat with a helpful virtual assistant, get instant answers about insurance, about treatment programs, about pricing. They don't have to wait on hold, and they can actually self-enroll in these programs. And so that's the great thing about being able to bring automation forward, is that we're able to shorten the distance and the amount of time that it takes between having somebody who has a need, like in this case, a need for a treatment program, and then being able to access it practically instantly. Now, I was asked to talk a little bit about my own entrepreneurship journey and how I got here. A lot of times, when we're putting together these webinars and people come in and talk about, how much they accomplished or being able to launch a product like the one I just talked about, it just looks like we're talking about the success that happened at the top. You see the product, you see the press, we show off our awesome awards and things like that. And everybody just thinks like, wow, Rebecca just showed up and everything just worked. But what we're not able to see and often share is all the work that went underneath it to create that success. All the failures, the failed attempts, the disappointment, the sacrifices, the late nights, the frustration, the self-doubt, all of those things that throw wrenches in our plans and our best laid plans every single day. I was even just talking to Robert before this, my daughter was homesick today, and that kind of threw a wrench in my day as well. So, these things always happen. And I think it's important as entrepreneurs, as we're talking to each other, that we also not just share our successes to inspire each other, but also talk a little bit about, what are some of the challenges that we faced in getting here. And I can tell you that in our case, even getting to the point where we could have a customer like Richovia, who's providing these very important treatment programs, we had to go through many, many iterations of our product. We also had to achieve some regulatory compliance measures such as HIPAA compliance. So we had to put some really good safeguards in place within our products since we were handling personal health information. We had to test our product many times. And sometimes we test the product, it launches, and then there's still a bug in there that we find later. And so having to deal with the frustration of that constantly really requires a lot of personal determination and a lot of really will to work through those challenges, because they face us every single day. There's no day that I wake up and just kind of breeze through the day with everything going the way that I had planned and having success around every corner, right? Because for every time I have a win, there's like 3 losses, it seems like, or 3 struggles that I have to overcome in order to get the next win on the other side. And so, one thing that I'd like to make sure that we're all very aware of is that entrepreneurship is very much a team sport. And the fact that all of you are here today, I feel very supported with you here. I feel very supported with the ACA and the wonderful resources that they provide. And hopefully the fact that you're here means that you're also believing in this idea that, working together as entrepreneurs, whether we're in different businesses, but in the same stages, or maybe one of us is a little bit further ahead and we can help the other business kind of figure out some things that we figured out sooner, that we realize that when we all help each other out, we all succeed, like all the boats rise when that happens. And my team of supporters are first and foremost my co-founders and the team that really helped found my company. I have the privilege of working alongside some really, really fantastic co-founders. Anu Shukla, who is the first person who even believed I could be an entrepreneur in this software startup world. And, she really put a lot of mentoring and coaching and support systems around me so that I could be successful. Chris Mehta, who is very, very technologically just fantastic, wise human being, one of the smartest people I know, and his willingness to sit down and teach me, especially when there were topics that were technically probably more complex than I could have understood with my degrees. I have degrees in business. He has degrees in computer science, very different. And he has spent a lot of time, working with me to help me understand some of this technology so we could apply it in our business. We also had a really fantastic chief science advisor that joined us at the beginning of our journey. Her name is Deborah McGinnis. She's a university professor who does a lot of research around the topics of natural language. And she helped us really come together, understand some of the principles of natural language understanding and semantics for computing that helped us build our product with a really great foundation. So I always think about, who are the people who are on your team, whether they're fellow business partners or maybe other folks who are playing those roles. But I always suggest to people, business is entrepreneurship and starting a business is a really tough road. It's always better if you have a business partner alongside you. And I have to tell you, on many occasions, it has been my co-founders that have helped me see my blind spots, who have lifted me up when I was feeling discouraged. And then also, quite frankly, can cover for me if I need to. There's times when maybe I have to go take care of something with my family. And the fact that I have, a very strong business partnership team that can cover and we can fill in for each other when one of us has to be out, that's also really important. And it ensures that the business is successful, even if I have to be gone for a day or a week, because ultimately that's really super important. So the other factor is, of course, the rest of the team, the extended team. So it's not just the founders, but it's also everybody who plays an important role within the organization. And it's been really tough to get the whole company together. So this is not the whole organization just because of COVID, and we're now largely remote, but this gives you a nice cross-section of our team. And what I love about our team is that everybody chips in and does more than what just their job is. And that's super important, especially with an early stage startup. It's really trying to work within just a job description is almost impossible, because as you know, something new comes up every day that you've never seen before. And it's like, well, this is nobody's job description. We just have to deal with it, right? And so having a really fantastic team of people who are all committed to pitching in, to stepping up, to working those extra hours when it's necessary, that's another really important aspect of having a successful startup. And so I would encourage you as you're building your business and you're building your team, think about the kind of people that are coming on board. Are these people who really believe in your vision and who will step in even when you can't be there, to cover, to solve problems, to help customers, to fill in gaps where they see them, because that's really important. This is not the Rebecca Clyde project. This is the Botco.ai project, and this is all of us pitching in and helping each other out to be successful. I always have believed in this mantra of it takes a village. You know, we usually hear about it takes a village to raise a family, but it also takes a village to run a business. And so I would like to share with you what is my village, and who I have really, those structures that I had put around my world so that I could build many successful businesses. As Robert had mentioned, prior to Botco.ai, I had started an agency, Ideas Collide, which is an award-winning agency that we grew to over 60 people. It's still thriving and alive and well. And I've been able to do this because, again, I've always espoused this mentality of having a village to support me and to build that village. And that first stage is really at home, because if I don't have a good support system at home, then I'm not going to be able to show up and be a very good entrepreneur. I'll be too stressed out and too bogged down with home concerns. And so the first thing that I had to put in place in my life once I started having children was really good childcare and investing in relationships that could last a long time. And so I've been very fortunate to have built a solid childcare support system around me of multiple layers, not just one, but a backup and a backup to the backup and a backup to the backup to the backup. Because as you know, especially with a pandemic, many people might be out sick at any point in time. And so it's really important to have that kind of childcare network built up. And the nice thing is nowadays there's even apps for this. There's great products out there that you can even help find, like Urban Sitter and things like that, that you can help find qualified, verified child support quickly should you be in that situation. It's also really important to invest in family relationships to have that support system in place. So I'm very fortunate. I have a good relationship with my parents. And so I've had many occasions where I've had to call on my parents in an emergency to come help me. And I'm, you know, that's an important relationship I have to maintain in my life, because if I want to be able to work and travel and do some of these things, it's often been my parents that have been able to help out. Now, if you don't have parents available or around that can come in, then find surrogate parents or godparents for the children that can help with these kinds of things. But it's super important to cement those relationships at home so that as you build your business and grow it, you have the ability to, you know, maintain sanity and safety and love at home. The other thing I believe I'm a big believer in is tutoring. Even though I was really good at math and I was a straight A student and I have a master's degree, they teach all the subjects now super differently than how I learned them. And so I quickly discovered once my oldest was a teenager, that it was not a good idea for me to try to fill in this role. We would end up arguing and it created a lot of stress. And so I was able to tap into some tutoring resources. Now, fortunately, the public schools that my kids go to have a lot of tutoring programs available. I don't know about the schools you're in, but it's definitely something to look into. I found that any teacher I would ask and say, hey, my daughter needs help or my son needs help with this subject, the teachers were always very knowledgeable about free or reduced cost tutoring services that were available. And I've always taken advantage of those. And I find that usually not a lot of parents are doing that. The teachers will say, hey, we've been putting together these after school math tutoring programs and very few people are showing up. So we would love it for you to show up. So definitely take advantage of those. They make a big difference. And then I know all of us have the carpool situation, but again, super important. There's been many times when I've had early morning meetings or a really early morning presentation, and it's been important to have a network of other parents to call on or to ask for rides. And I know these things sound very basic, and maybe you're probably wondering, like, Rebecca, why are you talking about this? But the truth is, without these things in place, I would not be able to do what I do. And so I consider them to be foundational. And if you need any tips or ideas on how to find some of these resources, let me know. These are my kiddos, my teenagers now. My oldest has gone off to college. My son is a sophomore, and then my little one, she's a 6th grader. And they are truly my inspiration, and I consider them also part of my village. part of my approach has been to really integrate them into my work. My kids actually help out at Botco.ai, and then in my other businesses, they have always been involved. And so sometimes they'll do simple things like cleaning the office. They come in once a week and they wipe down counters. With COVID, we gave them extra jobs of having to disinfect all the doorknobs and the light switches, which they liked doing, and they kind of became the cleanliness police around the office. They also help with some administrative tasks. So I've been able to teach them how to do a few things from an administrative standpoint. My son, he's in charge of shredding everything to make sure that no documents get left behind, that confidential information is shredded, no credit card statements are lying around. My daughter has even learned how to help me file some of the 401k reports, and it was a great learning experience to show her, like, what is a 401k plan and why do we provide this for our employees? Very few high schoolers have even heard of a 401k, and she's even helped me put together the paperwork for these. And then the youngest one, she's a little bit young, but she even helps me with testing. And she also provides really good feedback for me when I'm putting together talks, presentations, speeches. She's actually very artistic and has a really good eye for design. So she will tell me if she thinks something looks good, if it could be better. I show them the work that we're doing and I ask them for feedback. And what I have found is that rather than compartmentalizing my life and keeping my children, in one department and my business in another, I've actually integrated them in a lot of ways. And I try to use this as an opportunity to teach my kids about my business. They help me test my products. They give me feedback on presentations. They help us with administrative tasks. And they feel like they're now part of the company in a way, and they're also invested in the success. And so when I have to tell them, look, I have to go away for this trip because I'm presenting to some investors, they feel like I'm not leaving them. They actually feel like I'm doing something for them. And because they also want to see it succeed because they've been a part of it. So I would urge you to figure out a way to integrate your family, your children into the business, even with small things, because it's amazing how invested they feel once they get to be a part of it, and they get excited about your success, and they want to see things also go well for you. The other thing I've done is really invested in my personal wellness village. And so I call this, really where I invest in myself. And there's a few areas that I've focused on that I'll share here. The first is really around nutrition. And for that, I've actually grown a garden. And if you think about nutrition, it's our fuel, right? This is how we get through the day. Without proper fuel, we cannot function as humans. And so I'm very intentional about that fuel that goes into my body to make sure that it's the best possible fuel out there, the highest octane available. And for that, I have a garden. And it was actually really wonderful during the shutdown and COVID to be able to have my own vegetables to eat and just also teach my kids how to cook at home. The other thing is making sure that there's a good spiritual practice in my life so that I'm also taking care of my own kind of spiritual self. I wake up every morning at 5 a.m. I was up at 5 this morning and went to work out. It's the only time I have in the morning in the day to work out is before everybody else gets up. So I have to do it in the morning. Once the day starts, it becomes impossible. I've also invested in having meaningful friendships, and these friendships are very important, especially when, as you know, entrepreneurship is very, very hard. There's a lot of discouraging days, and it's very, very important to have a good friend that will listen, that will be supportive, and that will be encouraging during that time. And then don't forget to have fun. I was just telling Robert, somebody told me once that I smile too much. But part of the reason is because I'm always having fun. I love the work that I do. I'm having a great time. I want to make sure that I am conveying that joy to my team, to my family, to the people I work with. And so I can't help it. I just have a lot of fun while I'm doing it, because if you're going to do it, you might as well have a good time doing it, right? So these are some things that I invest in regularly to make sure that I personally am showing up as best as I can to my team, to my family, to my investors, and to all the people that have to deal with me, my customers, et cetera. And so here's a quick snapshot. You can see my garden. I grow a lot of really great stuff. Kale, lettuce, spinach. I consider those to be kind of the foundation of my diet in a lot of ways. They're super full of micronutrients and really, really good for everything, collagen, all the good stuff that we need to be happy and healthy. I also grow my own herbs, which make your food taste so much better than the store-bought stuff. And then I have some more meaty vegetables like cauliflower and broccoli and eggplant that I use kind of as main courses as well. And the fun thing is that because of the garden, my kids are learning a lot about cooking. I'll have them do challenges like, okay, I have a big giant cauliflower. Let's all find a great cauliflower recipe and do a cook-off, right? Who makes the best cauliflower? And so they get really excited. They'll watch cooking shows and participate. So, whatever you can do, the main ingredient you need for a good garden in Arizona is sunshine, and we have so much of it. And if you can buy some good dirt from a dirt purveyor that has special gardening dirt, it'll be a lot better than the stuff that's already in the ground. But that's pretty much it. It doesn't take a lot to have a good garden here in Arizona since we have so much sunshine. Next is my business village, and this one is essential. I mentioned my co-founders already. I participate in a lot of different peer groups with CEOs. So the Arizona Startup Foundation, for example, has a peer group of CEOs, and we get together once a month. It's 10 of us, 10 or 15 of us. We get together once a month. And I call it kind of like the AA of startup founders. We go around the room and we share, where are we struggling? Where do we need help? Where are we having success? And I consider this to be a really essential part of my own success, is being able to learn from other CEOs and what they're doing and maybe what mistakes they've made so I don't make the same ones. And then also to support them, right? We're here for each other. And that's very, very important. I've also been able to secure some really fantastic business coaches and advisors that have been part of my journey. And, sometimes they have expertise in areas where I don't. And so rather than fumbling my way blindly, I count on these resources, these advisors. I'll bring them in for very specific topics that I know that I need some knowledge around. And then, of course, having great professional partners is so important. I can't stress enough how important it is for your business to have a great lawyer, a great CPA, and then other experts that are going to help your business. I find that a lot of mistakes can be avoided if these partners are in place early. And they're not really, a lot of people think lawyers are too expensive, but I think that they are quite reasonably priced. You can find some good lawyers that will work with you. A lot of lawyers will also work with startup founders or with small businesses and provide special rates or deferred payments, things like that, to make it more affordable. So definitely count on some of these resources. And I'm sure the Arizona Commerce Authority and some of these other resources like the Phoenix Chamber might even also have resources that are available for free to small businesses. So definitely put in place those different people within your ecosystem, because they're very, very important for having a successful business and staying out of some of these problems that sometimes we don't even know are there, but because we didn't comply or because we missed a deadline, it could create a lot of headaches for your business that are unnecessary. And this is an example of some of the business advisors that we have in place. So Rich Bowles, he's a prominent ex-CEO or retired CEO of Blue Cross Blue Shield. He's been fantastic in helping to mentor me and teach our business about important topics around the payer systems that are in place in the healthcare industry. Alex Morehouse at Banner Health, she's the chief marketing officer there. She's been also a tremendous advisor and has given me really good tips on, for example, how to get a big technology project approved in the healthcare system. She walked me through step by step how to do that. And only somebody with that inside knowledge would be able to give me that kind of information. Ed Henrich, he was at a really big successful startup in Silicon Valley called Responses, and he was running customer success there. And he helped me put together the whole vision and plan for what our company's customer success team needed to have in terms of structure, goals, mechanisms for measurement. Super, super helpful. Steve Kennedy is a many times CRO and VP of sales, and has kind of been my VP of sales on loan before we could actually bring somebody in. He was very willing to help us out with providing guidance on how to set up the stages of our sales cycle, how to organize our sales team, how to put together sales quotas, just all of those different things that I'm truly not an expert in. He could come in and help me walk through what that needed to look like. And then Sandra Yang, also really, really a tremendous person who's focused on customer acquisition at a very large company at Norton LifeLock. And she was able to help us think about, how to do high volume customer acquisition and how to put structures in place for that kind of growth. And so this is just a smattering of some of the advisors that we have, but in many cases, these advisors either are, in some cases, they're investors in our company. In other cases, they might have, they're not even getting paid. They're just doing it because they want to help us out, or they just do it because they believe in our company and our mission, and they want to be a part of that story. So it's amazing how many people will actually be part of your company and be part of your story without even requiring remuneration of any kind. And I have been truly humbled by that, and by the fact that such tremendous experts are willing to come and come forward and do this. And there are wonderful resources here in Arizona that will also do the same. The ACA has put me in touch with a lot of wonderful resources that I highly recommend you also go toward. I know Local First Arizona has a lot of great resources, Arizona Startup Foundation. Those people you will find will step up and help in many ways. So if you need any suggestions, I'm happy to also discuss this further with you. So the last thing I'm going to mention before we cut over into questions is the importance of self-care throughout this whole process. And I'm actually very lucky because one of my first customers was Massage Envy, and they're a wonderful Arizona company that is on a mission to making sure that everybody has access to affordable self-care. And that's one of the wonderful things about this organization. They're a large company, 1,000 locations, over 1,000 locations throughout the country, not just here in Arizona. And we had the privilege of being able to work with them and provide them with an AI chat solution that makes it easier for busy moms like me to book their next massage appointment. And so if you even want to go to the Massage Envy website at massageenvy.com, you can see our chatbot there. You can type in your zip code and it'll tell you which is the nearest Massage Envy to you. And take a moment to schedule a massage, because I think all of us as entrepreneurs are extremely stressed, and I certainly always am. And so giving ourselves a gift of self-care is one of the most important things that I think we can do as founders. And like my great friend over there, Andrew McCauley, said, as a brand, being able to do this kind of thing, which is work with an AI chat solution to drive health and wellness, has never been more valuable than now. There's still a new variant of the COVID going around, so we have to continue to take care of ourselves. And if we want to have our business be successful, make sure to be investing in yourself first. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to questions, because I'm sure that there might be quite a few from the audience here today.
Yeah, if you have questions, please drop them in the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. And we can have some time with Rebecca. Rebecca, great points in there. I really like the piece of the gardening. One of the things I've seen in my professional career is you have to have something outside of work that takes your mind off work. And it doesn't need to be something that takes a lot of effort or a lot of time, but it needs to be something that takes you totally away. So for example, my thing is motorcycles. I love to get out on my motorcycle, because if your mind's not focused on your riding and what you're doing, bad things can happen, unfortunately. So, but I love to get on the motorcycle, and that's my release, my escape from the day to day, just like your gardening is. And so that was a really cool piece to add in there. One thing while we're waiting for some questions, and I encourage you to ask some questions, is what are some types of AI, jumping back to the AI thing, that small businesses can use or leverage to help their businesses? A lot of them don't have, big budgets for it. So what are some simple AI type things that can be leveraged?
Yeah, I was talking about automation in our case, right? Is, how do you make it easier so that customers don't have to call every time they want to talk to you, or wait in a line, or somehow be held up, right? So I'm always thinking about wherever those points of friction are in your business, think about automation as a way to get past that. So some businesses are doing some really simple things that I know are very inexpensive, where you can actually set up a system where when somebody tries to call your business, they'll get a text message immediately that says, hey, sorry that we can't answer the phone. Do you just want to text us your question? So you can even start with something simple like that, so that you don't miss that business. Because just the other day I had to call, I was looking for a specific product. I only had like a 20-minute break between meetings. and I called 3 or 4 different places. Nobody answered the phone. And 2 of them wrote me a text back. And then one of the companies the businesses that texted me back right away is the one that I ended up going with. So the ones that who forced me to leave a voicemail, I just didn't even bother with them. They never, and I don't even think they ever called me back because they said they don't check their voicemail very much. So the point is, make it as easy to get a hold of you as possible, whether that's having a chat experience on your website. Certainly our product is one, or there's others too that you can use that are maybe available from like HubSpot even, that I consider more like free versions out there. Putting together a texting system in place so your customers can text you their questions. Just being able to make it as easy as possible for people to get the information they need instantly without having to wait, get a call back, do the voicemail phone tag thing. That's always like the first thing I always suggest.
I know, so we have a question here from David. Says, how did you determine or acquire your advisors?
Yeah, that's a good question. So it started really with understanding like where the gaps were in my own knowledge, right? So that's the first thing. It's like, okay, I don't know. I knew that I had no expertise in enterprise software sales, right? I know that. I've never been a VP of sales at an enterprise software company. So I don't have experience in this. And so when I was going through an accelerator, I was actually looking for an advisor, and I asked the accelerator organizers if they could put me in touch with advisors that they knew had a lot of expertise in enterprise software sales. And so they did. So most of these things are just as simple as asking, right? At the ACA, you guys have a huge amount of resources, and there's probably a whole list of these kinds of resources. So the first is, tapping into your network, saying, hey, I'm looking for somebody that knows a lot about blank, having that initial meeting with them. It's never a good idea to say, like, on the first meeting, will you be my advisor? That's usually not the best way to do it. It's just, have that first meeting, try to understand what their background is, have a conversation, see if there's a good connection there where their experience matches with what you're looking for, if you guys can get along, if you like the way that person thinks. And then if that works, then, set up another meeting and see if the value can continue, maybe pose a question, something small that you guys can work on together just to see how the chemistry is. And then if that seems to work, at that point, say, hey, I would like to, I really enjoyed our conversations together. I think you have a lot of great expertise. I'd love to set up an advisor relationship with you. This is what it might look like. And some people I've seen will do it without any remuneration, like I said. Another way that I've seen it done is you can actually offer some shares in your business. There's really no need to do a large percentage, like a very small number of shares in the company sometimes will be fine. Or maybe it's a trade, like, hey, I would love to get that expertise from you. Maybe there's some expertise that you can offer that person, and it can be just more of like a type of a trade of sorts. So just see what works. But I was amazed at how many people were willing to come forward and just wanted to be part of our journey, and just because we asked. So as simple as that.
David has a few other questions in there, but I'm going to try to answer them as well real quick, Rebecca. So besides some of those advisors like Rebecca mentioned, there's some other organizations out there, depending on the type of business you have as well. So SCORE is one of them. It's score.org, SCORE.org. And they're a group it's a volunteer program supported by the Small Business Administration. Most of them are retired executives, and they just want to give back. This is a no-cost volunteer program, great resource. Another place you can find some at no cost, some business coaching and guidance is with the Small Business Development Centers. There's also some accelerator programs that you can look at. There's Seed Spot, Local First has some programs depending on your business. The ACA, we have a couple different programs. One that you may look at for an accelerator is our virtual accelerator. We have that linked on our website under programs. And, that's going to be coming up at the beginning of next year. So you want to definitely get on that email list if it's something you're interested in. We also have some small business cohort type classes as well to support businesses. So there's a number of different programs around that are no cost and, you know, startup groups, you know, Startup Phoenix, Startup Tucson, and others that can help guide you to those programs or just kind of get connected into the ecosystem.
Yeah, I can't say enough about those programs. I have been amazed at how many just amazing retired, very successful, extremely successful people are out there that just want to give back. Like they're not looking for consulting fees or anything like that. So they'll align themselves with great organizations like the ACA or Local First or Seed Spot because they really are genuinely looking for entrepreneurs that they can support. And so, you know, there's a huge breadth and wealth of resources there.
And the advantage of having an advisor or even some of these other programs, as we just mentioned, is they can help you identify some of those gaps that you just don't know you have yet. Because a lot of times we don't know until someone asks that question and you're kind of dumbfounded going, never thought of that. Thanks for asking. So,
exactly.
Rebecca, how many times did you come across, you know, working with your coaches and advisors, those things you didn't know? You didn't know.
Oh, every day, many times, 10 times a day, probably. Yes. Like I had no idea, for example, how to put together a compensation plan for a sales team. You know, I'd never done that before. And so I needed somebody that could really walk me through that. I didn't know how to even set up the stages of the sales cycle in a CRM, right? When you go to set up your CRM software, it asks you about all these stages. And then you're like, wait, how do I know? Okay, all of a sudden I realized I had a gap in my knowledge. And so it's been wonderful to work with these advisors who can come in and step in. And it's really important to not to become like super needy around them, right? It's like, come with a very specific thing. Like I'm looking to understand this topic, have a very clear agenda, because then they feel like they can really help in that situation and have, you know, maybe regular one-on-ones, like once a month that you're meeting with them on these topics. That makes the time together really productive and also helps them feel like they're helping you make progress towards something, that there's an agenda and there's something very specific that they can work on with you. So that's also really important, so that you're also using their time very wisely.
Excellent. Well, those are some good questions we had in there. We got a few minutes left if there's any questions pop up, but I want to appreciate you, Rebecca, for coming on. Rebecca's been a great presenter, you know, great entrepreneur in the entrepreneur ecosystem in the state, plugging the state. So we're glad to have you with us and to share that information and your experience with it. Oh, we have one more question just popped in. Oh, it's a thank you from David. So David, thank you for sharing your information and asking those questions. And with that, we will go ahead and wrap up early, give everybody a few minutes left in the day or a few minutes to, you know, do something real quick before your next meeting starts at 10. But thank you for being with us, and we look forward to having you with us on Thursday for our next boot camp session. Until then, everybody have a great day, and we'll see you soon. Thank you.
Thanks, Robert. Thanks, everybody, for joining today. Have a great December.